As a wise man once said, ook ook ah ah berserk gorilla, and I'm really excited to be able to embody that philosophy today in this video. What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and in this video we're going to be going over this Earth Aggro deck for Chaos format. Now, I figured while covering Chaos format, Chaos is, of course, the biggest deck in the room, and there are a lot of different variants of it, and I'm planning on covering those variants, but I figured it'd be good to spice it up and sort of release, every other video be a Chaos video, right? So, the first thing I'm going to do to sort of deviate from the Chaos strategy is talk about Earth Aggro. Now, if you're familiar with, like, GOAT format, Earth Aggro is a very powerful deck in that format as well, as, it maybe isn't meta, but like it's definitely topped tournaments and done very, very well against more meta decks like Chaos Turbo. So it stands to reason that Earth Aggro would also do pretty well in Chaos format, where Chaos is by far and away the sort of best deck in the room, or at least people consider it to be so. So, people have tried to sort of craft an Earth deck, and the deck that I'm using here was actually piloted by the Duelist Cosmo, who is a very big, sort of proponent of Chaos format and a very, very good duelist in this format. So I think this deck looks pretty sick. I mean, there are some changes that I might make to it after testing it out for a little bit. But just to sort of go over the card by card as it is, we got triple Berserk Gorilla, we got triple Goblin Attack Force. These are your main beaters here. Getting in for a ton of damage is what this deck wants to do. Your opponent can't bring out a Chaos Monster if they can't survive long enough to actually do that. And so we're just trying to get in as much damage as possible, beat over our opponent's monsters, and have a good time that way. Now, Berserk Gorilla is kind of the better monster of the two because it doesn't have the downside of switching to defense like Goblin Attack Force does, but Goblin Attack Force is searchable off of the 2 Reinforced in the Army that we've got in the deck as well. Of course, when we're playing Reinforced in the Army, it pays to play multiple DD Warrior Ladies and an Exiled Force. This deck's only playing 2 DD Warrior Ladies. I think that's fine. You mainly want to use Reinforcement in the Army to get out like Goblin Attack Force if you can to get in for damage, but the Warrior Ladies can come up and be very, very good. The deck is also playing a Break of the Magical Warrior as spell and trap removal. Fiber Jar to sort of reset the game state. If you're getting in a lot of damage, then Fiber Jar can be good because it resets everything except for the life point total. And also, bringing out your monster and just attacking in for a ton of damage is a recipe for, sort of going lower on card advantage over time. And Fiber Jar can help you recover that card advantage. Next up, we got 2 Gigantes here. This is an Earth monster, 1900 attack, 1300 defense. It can be special summoned by banishing 1 Earth monster from your graveyard. And if this card is destroyed by battle, send to the graveyard, destroy all spell and trap cards on the field. That second effect won't really come up as much in this format, but the big thing here is that it's an extender. It can get more damage on board, and it's a very easy summoning condition, as all you need is 1 Earth in graveyard, and this deck is playing a ton of Earth monsters. Next up, we got Injecting Fairy Lily, another very powerful Earth monster. You can get in for 3,400 damage potentially, which is very, very good in a deck like this. We've also got Magical Scientist to clear up some gummy board states. We got a Sangan, which is Black Forest to search out most of our deck, and also a Tribe Infecting Virus, which is great at also clearing up gummy board states, just like the Scientist. For these spells, we got Change of Heart, Confiscation, Link with Duo, Graceful Charity, Harpy Feather Duster, Mirage Nightmare, Monster Reborn, Triple MST, Pot of Greed, Premature Burial, Raigeki, double Reinforced from the Army, Snatch Deal, and the Forceful Sentry. Now, one card that might be missing from this main deck is Dark Hole, which is in the side. I think it's in the side as opposed to the main because, your game plan mainly revolves around sticking big beaters on board, so you don't necessarily want to Dark Hole those away. I think in adjusting the deck for the future, I might actually put back in Dark Hole. But, I think that it's fine to keep it in the side deck to sort of experiment with a bit. And also, you do really want that board presence, and so you don't necessarily want to draw a Dark Hole on a board like that. But moving on to the traps, we got Call the Haunted, Imperial Order, Mirror Force, Ring of Destruction. Those are the 4 sort of standard traps that you'll see in most decks, and also a 1 of Sakuretsu Armor. Just like with Trap Hole, or not Trap Hole, with Dark Hole, you don't necessarily want to have the big board clears, which is why Torrential Tribute is just in the side deck as opposed to the main deck like a lot of other decks play. But Sakuretsu Armor is a great battle trap, can stop problematic monsters that your opponent might have, and clear the way for your big beaters. For the fusion deck, we've just got a scientist toolbox here. Double Dark Balter, Dark Flare Knight, Dark Flare Dragon, Dragoness of the Wicked Knight, Fiend Skull Dragon, Flame Ghost, Fusionist, which is an Earth target for scientist there. Guilty of the D Knight, Reaper on the Nightmare, Reascension, which is another Earth target that is a bit more useful than Fusionist. Super Robo Lady and Super Robo are more Earth targets. Last Word from Another Planet, you're never really going to be summing this out, but it's just here to know about. And Thousand Eyed Trick to suck up your opponent's monsters. For the side deck, there's a Dark Triceratops for, against like certain, more defensive strategies. You can be more likely to bring this out and pierce over your opponent's monsters. Double King Tiger Wanghu, I think, for more recruiter-based strategies, although I'm not the biggest fan of Wanghu in this format, given that, like, Shining Angel can float into DD Warrior Lady, which gets around Tiger Wanghu, so but I do think it's neat to have here. It can also help against scapegoat focus decks, like goat control style things. We've also got the Dark Hole, as I mentioned. We got a Heavy Storm here and a Dust Tornado for more spell and trap removal. Double Nobleman of Cross out there. This is especially good when you know you're going second. You can bring this in, get even more aggressive. Double Poison the Old Man and 2 Barrel Behind the Door for burn decks, or in the case of Poison the Old Man, scientist decks as well. And double Sakuretsu Armor and a Transfer Tribute, as I mentioned. These are good in case your opponent's on a bit more of an aggressive deck. You can bring these in to stop their monsters. And that's going to do it for the deck breakdown. I'm excited to just bring out big monsters and hit in, and I hope that you enjoy the games that I got to show for you today. Okay, we got a game against Kesha YGO Official, a frequent guest of the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. And we are going to go into the rock, paper, scissors here. And we have an intense rock, paper, scissors, but unfortunately we do indeed lose that. So we're going to be going in to the game going second here. This is a pretty good hand for going second. We can potentially just set the Fiber Jar and just set back their progress potentially if we want them to. They're going to go for Painful Choice here, and they send 5 really good ones. They send the 3 Hand Rips, plus Graceful, plus Pot. And we think about this a bit, and I think the Duo is the correct choice here. The idea being that if we give them Duo and they don't hit the Fiber Jar out of hand, they're 1,000 life points down. We can set the Fiber Jar, reset the progress, and sort of, they'll be lower on life points. We'll be fine. And yeah, it's just if they don't hit Duo, or if they don't hit Jar off Duo. So I feel like Duo is the right choice, although, with these 5 cards, it's really tough to say what the actual right choice is. But yeah, we give them Duo. They're just going to go for the Duo, pay 1,000, and they're going to hit... Oh, they hit the Fiber Jar. That is quite unfortunate. We do lose the Fiber Jar, and we're also going to send the Snatch Steal. Snatch Steal isn't really good at this point in the game, but yeah, it's kind of rough. They're going to set 4, pass back to us, fire Mirage, which is, just keeps getting worse. We draw MST, though, so we are able to out that Mirage. And I have the read that they likely set, like, a Magician of Faith. That's why they probably sent all 5 of these power spells to grave there. So I'm just going to go for a Reinforce in the army, search out an Exiled Force instead of a DD Warrior Lady or Goblin Attack Force, bring in the Exiled Force, pop their monster, and it is indeed a Magician of Faith. So I'm very glad I did that. I'm just going to set the Sakuretsu Armor, as I have the read that they've got an MST in their back row, and I don't want them to snipe the Mirror Force there. So they do hit the Sakuretsu Armor there. They're going to bring out a Shining Angel attack in for 14 here. We will take that 14, and they'll pass back to us. We draw an MST, which is pretty decent. We're just going to set the MST and the Mirror Force. I could have potentially MST'd their back row there and then gone for Mirror Force set just to play around if they had MST. But I figured they probably didn't have 2 MSTs in their back row. I mean, they definitely could have, but it would have been kind of a weird hand for them to draw. But they're going to hit in for 14. We're just going to let that go through. No need to use Mirror Force on that. We're going to bring out Berserk Gorilla, and it's come and hit the field. We're going to hit in for 600 damage here, and they will be able to bring out a Warrior Lady, unfortunately. And if they do just, like, for instance, switch the Warrior Lady to the defense next turn, then we will have to attack into it with Berserk Gorilla, which will be kind of annoying. So that's kind of rough. But if they do try and attack into the Berserk Gorilla, we do have Mirror Force for that. So let's hope they go for that. They are indeed going to go for that. We're going to fire the Mirror Force here, clear that Warrior Lady, and they're just going to pass back to us, so I feel very fine about that. We are going to think about this because we could potentially hold the Gigantes for later. We do have an Earth Engrave in the form of Exiled Force and Fiber Jar. So, we could potentially wait in case they clear the Berserk Gorilla or something. But I figure, we've got them at 6,400. Attacking in for 3,900 will put them in a very precarious position. So I just want to go for it. We MST their back row. It's a change of heart. I feel very good about that. Banish the Fiber Jar, attack in for 3,900 here. And that will indeed connect. So now our opponent's going to drop down to 2,500. That's a very dangerous position for them to be in. And unfortunately, they do have the Dark Hole to clear up our board. They also have Monster Reborn to bring back our own Berserk Gorilla. and hit in for 2,000. That is very rough for us. They're going to set one pass back to us. We do draw another Berserk Gorilla, so we will be able to sort of out this. We're just going to summon that out, attack into their Berserk Gorilla, clear both, and pass back to them. They're just going to pass back to us. We draw Tribe. We're just going to bring that out, try and hit in. Unfortunately, they do have the TT there to deal with the Tribe, but that's part of why we summon the Tribe, because we do have to eat through their interruption here. They're going to go for Premature Burial, bring out a DD Warrior Lady, and attack in for 1,500. And now the life points have equalized here, which is kind of rough for us. We draw Pot of Greed, which is about the best thing we could have drawn there. We draw a Breaker and a Sangan, and this is like arguably some of the best cards we could have drawn here. We're going to bring out the Breaker, use its effect to pop the Premature Barrier, get rid of the DD Warrior Lady, and attack in, dropping our opponent down to 100 life points. So they're still alive, just barely. And we are in a precarious spot, though. We're going to pass back to our opponent. They will just set one, set another, pass back to us, and we draw a DD Warrior Lady. Now, we could potentially commit like a Sangan to board here and attack in, but we don't want to play into like Torrential Tribute, which we do know that they're on. So we're just going to attack in for 1,600 here. They've got Mirror Force, unfortunately. We're just going to set this DD Warrior Lady, pass back to them. They've got this Call of the Haunted to bring back a DD Warrior Lady of their own. Having the read that we probably have like a Sangan or Witch, I guess. They're going to attack into our DD Warrior Lady, and this is actually very funny because this will actually be exact lethal, dealing that 100 damage from the DD Warrior Lady's defense there. So that will be the end of game one. Very exciting game one, and I do think that it really does show how aggressive you have to get with this deck and how that aggression can actually pay off in the end. We were very low on resources in the end of the game, but we were still able to win because we'd gotten our opponent down so low. So we are going to go into game two here. Hope that our luck holds and we'll be able to get another victory here. We're going to be going second again. And this is a pretty good opener. We have a lot of tools to sort of deal with their back row here. They're going to go for Forceful though, so they do get to see basically our entire hand. And they know that, you know, not to overcommit on back row here. They're going to set one pass back to us. And we draw Mirror Force. Now we have the read that probably could be like a, you know, Magician of Faith or something like that. But if they Magician of Faith, they just get back Forceful. And I'm honestly not too upset about that. So we're just going to bring out a DD Warrior Lady attack in, just in case like Sangan or Witch instead. We don't want to Raigeki that. And it isn't the Magician of Faith, so they're going to add back that Forceful. That's perfectly fine by us. We're going to set this Mirror Force pass back to them. Now they don't know what we've got set. I mean, they're probably going to take Raigeki, unfortunately. And they will indeed take the Raigeki there. Shuffling that back into the deck, and they're going to bring out this Kaiku here, try and attack over our DD Warrior Lady. Now, we could potentially Mirror Force this, get the Kaiku engraved, but honestly, Kaiku isn't that threatening right now. We don't have any monster engraved to banish, and we can also banish their Kaiku with our Warrior Lady, so that's perfectly fine. We're just going to let that happen. And we draw Gigantes. We're going to go for Breaker here, attack in for 1,900. Deal that 1,900, and then main two, we're actually going to set this Harpy's Feather Duster and pass back to our opponent. The reason we do this does play really badly into Harpies, but if they've got like Change of Heart or Snatch Steal, I want them to use Breaker's effect on the Harpies as opposed to the Mirror Force there. So I set the Harpies as a bluff because I think that it's more likely that they have one of Change of Heart or Snatch Steal than that they have a Harpies Feather Duster of their own. But we're going to pass back to them. They're going to fire Change of Heart indeed on our Breaker. They're going to break our new back row. It is the Harpies, so, you know, we do preserve our Mirror Force on field here, and they're going to go for a Painful Choice. And this is really, really rough for us. They send Demok, Sangan, Sinister Serpent, Shining Angel, and Air Knight Parshop. That's incredibly rough for us. So it means that they might have a Monster Reborn here to bring back the Demok, which is obviously going to be really bad for us. So I do just give them Demok. Now, if they've got Monster Reborn here, it might have been better actually to give them something else because, you know, even if they reborn the Demok and then reborn something else, at least they can't like bring back the Sangan and then tribute off for Demok. But I guess giving them the Demok deprives them of their normal summon, which is pretty good. So yeah, it's kind of weird. But yeah, we just give them Demok. If they don't have the Reborn, then this will just be dead in their hand. And unfortunately, they do indeed have the Reborn there. So they'll bring that back. They're going to tribute off both our monsters for the Demok. They'll add back this Monster Reborn to then get out another monster. They're also going to use the Sangan effect to search out Witch. They're going to Reborn back the Parchath here. And they're just going to attack in for a lot of damage. Unfortunately for them, we're not going to let them do that. We're going to fire this Mirror Force here. They will indeed banish the Demok and prevent the Parchath from getting in for some damage. We're going to fire this Reinforce the Army, searching out a DD Warrior Lady. Now, in hindsight, I think I probably should have gotten Goblin Attack Force because if you check our graveyard, we've got the Breaker there. We don't have an Earth. But the reason I get out the Warrior Lady is because I want a way to deal with the Witch that we know is in hand. But I think this was a little bit greedy for me and a little bit suboptimal. We're just going to attack in for 1,500 with the Witch. They're going to add back that Serpent there. And they're going to banish a light and a dark and bring out BLS here. It's very unfortunate for us. But, you know, the good thing is that if we had brought out Goblin Attack Force and tacked in, they had BLS anyways. They could have hit over the Goblin Attack Force, hit in directly for 3,000, and then gotten in for 1,100 as well. So at least this way we, you know, aren't attacked by the BLS. But this is still a rough spot to be in. We draw in Mystical Space Typhoon. That's not going to help us here. We're going to set that, pass back to our opponent. They're going to switch the BLS to attack in for 4,100 here. We will indeed take that. And we're in a really rough spot. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw an Imperial Order, which is not the best, does not help us here. We're just going to fire the MST for information. We see that they're on TT, and we're just going to admit defeat. So, you know, that game didn't quite go as well for us. They actually asked if we were on a conversion side deck because we didn't really show off any of the Earth stuff, but we just didn't really draw the Earth stuff. And we could have gone for the Goblin Attack Force there, and I think in hindsight, Goblin Attack Force would have been probably the right play. But I think DD War Lady was also defensible, so it's a bit iffy. But that's the fun of playing a deck like this and playing in a format like this. I do think that there are key decision points that you have to make that can really affect the outcome of the game. For side decking, I will mention this because I didn't mention it before. But basically, we sided out the duo in the pre-mat last game for double knock. I mean, that's something that I was doing in my last Chaos video as well. And I do like that. For this game, I do bring in a Dark Hole as well. I think Dark Hole is a very, very good card. Because, like, yes, if you have an established board, it's not really that useful. But you're not playing Dark Hole to sort of win more. You're playing Dark Hole to sort of come back from a deficit. So I do think the Dark Hole is good here. I think I might take out the Scientist. Because Scientist is a little bit awkward. You pay a bunch of life points and clear the board. But then your opponent can bring out a powerful monster and just hit over the Scientist. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. But we're going to go into game 3 here. Very exciting match so far. And we are going to be going first now. And this is a pretty good opening hand, if I do say so myself. We've got Mirage, MST, Comfy. This is looking really good for us. We're going to go for the Comfy first just to see what they're working with. We see that they're on Duo, Witch, Tribe, DD Warley, and Injection Fairy Lily. That's a kind of rough hand. We do want to take the Witch because Witch can search out very powerful things from the deck. So we don't want to let them have that. We're going to take that away. And we do know about the Duo. But we're actually going to do kind of an interesting play here. We're just going to bring out Goblin Attack Force, fire Mirage, set MST, pass back to our opponent. The reason we do this is because if they duo our hand, we do lose 2 monsters, which are pretty decent, but then we can fire Mirage next turn, draw 4, and then MST it away. So I feel like, you know, letting them duo here, it may seem good for them on paper, but it's actually good for us in the long run, especially if they don't draw spell and trap removal. They're going to draw for turn. They're going to fire the Duo indeed, take our Fiber Jar and Berserk Gorilla, and they're just going to set one pass back to us. We draw another Goblin Attack Force. We're going to bring that out, attack in with our new Goblin Attack Force. It's a DD Warley, so they're going to banish that. We're going to attack in now for 2,300. Goblin switches to defense, and now we can fire Mirage, pass back to them. And it looks like we will indeed draw 4 off the Mirage, and those are some pretty good ones. They're going to go for Tribe here. They are indeed going to pitch the DMOC attack over the Goblin Attack Force here. Just get in damage on their own. Also set up DMOC in grave for a like revival spell like Reborn or something like that. They're now going to set one pass back to us. We're just going to fire MST on their set because we got this additional MST in hand and we want to get aggressive here. It's a TT, so I'm glad we did that. We're going to fire this MST on the Mirage. And now we can hit over that Tribe Infecting Virus here. We're going to go for Reinforcement of the Army, searching out a DD War Lady because I honestly forgot. It wasn't Scientist that I cited out. It was a 3rd copy of Goblin Attack Force. So I wanted to go for a 3rd Goblin Attack Force. Forgot that I didn't have one. And so I just had to search out a Warrior Lady instead. I mean, I could have searched out Exiled as well. But I think that Warrior Lady is a bit more valuable in this situation. But that was a misplay on my part. You know, normally you'd hold the Reinforcement of the Army for later, just so your opponent doesn't know what you're on. But we're going to hit over that Tribe Infecting Virus, deal 300, and then we do know about the Injection Fairy Lily in hand, so we're going to fire this Forceful, shuffle that back into the deck, put our opponent on no cards here. They're just going to pass back to us. We feel very good about that. We draw a ring, and that should be the end of the game. We're going to bring a Tribe Infecting Virus attack in for 3,500, and then next turn we can just ring one of our monsters here to finish things off. We're going to fire ring, targeting our tribe, and it looks like our opponent does not have a Book of Moon, so that will be the end of the game. So I think that these games do show how aggressive this deck can be and how powerful that can be as well. This wasn't the only game I got against Kesha. We actually played a bunch of games here as these matches were just so much fun. We wanted to keep playing more. So let's dive into the next of these matches now. Okay, we got our second match against Kesha here, and we are going to go in the rock, paper, scissors, and this time we do win rock, paper, scissors, so we will be able to go first here. So that's pretty good for us. Although, getting the attack going second is also pretty decent for us, which is another sort of benefit to playing this deck. But we have a pretty monster-heavy hand, so we're just going to set a DD Warley, set this Mirage, pass back to our opponent. Mirage would be useless for us here because, we've got 4 monsters in hand no matter what we do. So, yeah, I just set it as a bluff. They're going to set 1 card of their own there. We're going to bring out Berserk Gorilla, get aggressive here, banish their set. It is indeed the Shining Angel, so we want to get rid of that. Attack in for 2,000. Oh, I just realized that I'm showing their hand. I don't want to do that right now. But, people got a sneak peek for the future, I guess. We're going to go for Duo here, pitching a Magic Scientist, and they're going to discard a Change of Heart. Very interesting choice. We're going to pass back to them. And they're going to go for MST on a Mirage. I mean, this was basically a bluff anyways, so it didn't really matter that much to lose it. They're going to go for Raigeki on our Berserk Gorilla, attack in for 1,800, and that's really bad for our Gigantes there. We are going to lose the Berserk Gorilla from grave. We draw another Berserk Gorilla, though, so we're just going to bring out the Goblin Attack Force, attack over the Kaiku there. This way, if they summon a monster to clear Goblin Attack Force, we can then bring out Berserk Gorilla, attack over that. Also, if they clear the Goblin Attack Force, we can then bring out Gigantes as well. So they're going to bring out White Magical Hat, which is a very interesting choice. They're going to hit over the Goblin Attack Force here. And we draw Exiled Force, which is pretty good. We're going to bring out Berserk Gorilla, banish the Goblin Attack Force from grave to bring out Gigantes. We don't need to worry about overcommitting monsters aboard here because we've got plenty more monsters where those came from. So we can just get in for a ton of damage here. So we're going to attack in for 2,900 total, pass back to them, and they're just going to admit defeat there. So yeah, that shows how powerful this deck can be if it's able to get off to an aggressive start there. And we're going to go into this second game. We are going to be going second here because, we did win game 1. And we draw a pretty good opener here as well. Opponent's going to bring out Kaiku, set 1, pass back to us. And now we have a couple options here. We could potentially just set the Fiber Jar and pass back to them. Then if they hit over the Fiber Jar, everything gets reset. And we're off to a pretty good new start. But I feel like we can sort of play out this hand a little bit more. We're going to bring out Berserk Gorilla, attack over the Kaiku, or at least attempt to. They've got Mirror Force, though, so that will clear that. We're going to go for the Dark Hole here. Then we're going to set this Mirage Nightmare, pass back to our opponent. It's a little bit risky if they've got another Kaiku. They can banish our Berserk Gorilla, which obviously isn't ideal. But it is what it is. They've got MSC for the Mirage anyways, so that didn't really matter. They're going to set another, pass back to us, and we draw Reinforce in the Army, which is pretty decent. We are going to fire Reinforce in the Army and search out an Exiled Force, just in case it's like, I mean, Magician of Faith doesn't really matter here, but, in case it's something worth worrying about, because we figure if they had Sangan or Witch, they would have just summoned it out and attacked in without fear. So I figure it's not a Sangan or Witch. So we're going to go for the Exiled here. It's a Serpent, so that's kind of rough for us. We're going to go for Reborn, targeting the Kaiku, trying to get a little bit cute, but our opponent is going to fire a Call the Haunted here, and we get majorly punished for our play. We're going to pass back to them. And they're going to attack in for 1,800, banish the monsters from our graveyard. So now Fiber Jar is looking a little bit less good because we really did like those monsters. We draw Warrior Lady, so at least we can banish one of their powerful monsters here. They're going to go for Scientist here, and they're going to bring out a Dark Flare Knight. That's kind of interesting. They're going to attack over our Warrior Lady. Banishing this doesn't really matter that much, so I'm just not going to banish their monster in case they've got something they can do with that. But yeah, they're going to banish our Warrior Lady from grave anyways with the Kaiku here, so it doesn't really matter. And they're going to attack in for 300. Dark Flare Knight will return to the deck, and we draw Change of Heart, which is pretty decent. We're going to Change of Heart their Kaiku there, attack over the Scientist, and hit over the Serpent, banish that away. They forgot to add it to hand, unfortunately for them, so we do get to benefit from their forgetting. But that's something that I do as well, so, it's tough to remember Serpent sometimes. There's just so many things to do. Opponent's going to bring out Shining Angel. We've got Fiber Jar set here, so we will be able to shuffle everything back into the deck. And I feel pretty decent about this. We've lost some powerful monsters, unfortunately. But we're still doing okay in terms of what Fiber Jar can search out for us. And our opponent has already normal summoned here. So we're going to shuffle everything back in. And they're going to draw 5 new ones. They're going to set 1 pass back to us, and we draw a Reinforce in the Army. That's pretty good. We go for Graceful here first. I think I honestly should have gone for Forceful first, just to get more information on what they're working with. So that way I can, sort of have better informed Graceful discards. But I don't do that, and that might come back to bite me. I think a bit for what to actually send here, because I've got a couple options this turn. I could just go for Lily, get in for a ton of damage. That does lose me the game to, like, Change of Heart, though, so it might not be the best choice. I guess not quite to Change of Heart, because we could call back the Tribe if we pitch Tribe. That might be the thing to do here. We're just going to pitch a Scientist and Sangan, and I think it's mainly because I didn't consider my full plays here, because I'm planning on getting aggressive this turn, going for MST on the back row, attacking in. I think it would have been best to get aggressive with the Lily here, attacking in for 3,400. after MSTing their back row and shuffling something back with Forceful. But if I'm doing that, I should set and send the Tribe Infecting Virus to grave, so that way I can call the Haunted it back in case they do take over the Lily. Because then I'll just be taking 1800. I'll still have 300 life points left. And so I'll still be alive. And then I'll potentially get Lily back at the end of the turn, potentially gain 1,000 life points on the next turn. But either way, Lily will be depleted, and I'll be doing fine. But I don't think it through that much. And I just keep the two most aggressive monsters in hand. I think this was a major misplay here, and it might actually cost me the game here. We're going to go for Forceful, see what they're working with, and we see that they've got two Chaos Monsters, a Witch of the Black Forest, and a Snatch Field. So we send back the Snatch Field because we are thinking about the Lily play. But again, in hindsight, I think I probably should have sent back the Witch. If I had sent the Tribe Infecting Virus before and they took over the Lily, then we could have called back the Tribe and been fine here. But unfortunately, I didn't think that far ahead, and that might actually cost me this match here, or at least this game of the match. But they're going to shuffle up their deck now, and we are going to bring out Tribe, attack in for 16. Now, if I hadn't done this, if I had said pitch the Tribe and then summoned out Lily here, attacked in for 34, I think we would have been in a much better spot. But we're going to set call, pass back to them. And I mean, let's see what they got a painful choice, so maybe they could have come back into this. But like, I think that ultimately we could have chosen something that would have been okay. Well, they'd get a Chaos Monster here either way. Yeah, we might have been losing this either way. Especially because CED Prio just would kill us potentially there. So yeah, CED Prio would kill us. So yeah, I think either way we were kind of losing this from this position after that painful draw. But we give them the Demock to deprive them of a Darkened Grave. Now they can only bring out one Chaos Monster as opposed to two. And they're going to bring out the CED indeed. They're going to not use Prio here, summon out the Witch, and attack over our Tribe. This will do 14 to us. And if that Witch connects, they can then use CED's effect to kill us here. Luckily, we've got this Call the Haunted to now bring back the Tribe to block the Witch attack. Could have also brought out Sangan, I guess. But we don't play Serpent in the deck. So, you know, if they CD pop, like, it won't really matter in the end because they can hit over the Sangan with Witch, then CD pop. So, it would just be for deck thinning, I guess. But this way we sort of retain 100 life points. And, you know, who knows what will happen from this point on. We've only got 300. They're going to search at Yata for the memes. And we draw a Gigantes. So we actually are still in this, luckily. We'll be able to bring that out, attack in for 1900 here. And hopefully we will manage to win this one. I mean, it all depends on their top deck here. But unfortunately, Change of Heart is a good one, and that will be the end of the game for us. So I definitely think I played the end of that game not the best, and probably the beginning of that game not the best too. But that can sometimes happen, and when you're playing a deck like this, you do need to be very careful with your plays, and you know, constantly be thinking of what to do and making sure that whatever you're doing is the best. So it definitely does take a little bit more skill to play a deck like this. That's not just, you know, maining the Chaos Monsters and things like that. I do think it is very rewarding if you manage to win with a deck like this. So, you know, again, the Noblemans here, I sided pretty much the same way I did in match 1. Although, instead of bringing out the Goblin Attack Force, I think I brought out a Scientist instead. Yeah, I think I was thinking of game 2 when I was talking about the siding before. But our opponent's going to go for Pot of Greed, set 2, pass back to us. And we draw Berserk Gorilla, which is pretty good. We're going to flip Warrior Lady to bait out like a TT. Maybe I should have gone for the Nobleman of Crossout first here, in case it was like a Witch or Sangan that they, you know, then need to search off TT. But I think it's ultimately fine because we want to get aggressive, and this clears away some of their defensive threats. And they are going to go for TT there, pop our Warrior Lady, get a search off the Witch. It's a Tribe, and we have a couple different options here. We could summon out a Tribe of our own, which would be very funny, because then they can't summon out Tribe, pop our Tribe without destroying their own Tribe Infecting Virus. But that's really bad if they've got like a Kaiku or something. So I'm just going to bring out this Berserk Gorilla, attack in for 2,000. And, you know, they can clear the Berserk Gorilla with the Tribe, but then we can get aggressive next turn as well. And so I think it's ultimately fine here. Our opponent is going to bring out the Tribe, and they're going to pitch a Kaiku, so I'm very glad I didn't bring out the Tribe. They're going to pop the Berserk Gorilla, go for Premature Burial on the Kaiku, so they still manage to get out that monster and hit in for 3,400. This is kind of rough for us. We do lose both monsters in grave here, but I think I do have some fun ways to sort of clear this board. Our opponent's going to pass back to us. We draw Reinforcement in the army, so that gives us another potential option to do here. But I think the best play might just be summon out Breaker, hit over the Tribe Infecting Virus, and then in main 2, just pop their Premature Burial. Get rid of that Kaiku. Their board's cleared. We're just going to set the Snatch Field as a bluff here. If they've got MST, you know, that would die to MST anyways here. So I think it's ultimately fine to do this. Although, you know, I maybe got a little bit too clever with this. Maybe I should have just brought out Tribe, cleared the Kaiku, and then crashed in with our Tribe. But I don't know. I think this is ultimately fine. Our opponent's going to go for Raigeki here, clear our breaker. They're going to bring out Yata and draw lock us here. Luckily, this isn't that big of a deal because we've got plenty of ways to play through this. We're going to go for a reinforce the army here, search out a goblin attack force here, get in for big damage. This sort of threatens lethal eventually with injecting very Lily, so I'm ultimately fine with this. They're going to TT our goblin though, bring out another Yata, set up the draw lock yet again. So, we're slowly losing our resources here, but I think we're ultimately still fine. We're going to bring out this injection very Lily and just try and get in for a bunch of damage. If they've got change of heart or snatch heal, they can't use this Lily's effect on us because they will be below 2,000 life points. And since we still have 2,000 life points, we will be able to use Lily's effect on their turn. They're going to go for call, and they're going to bring back Tribe, and this is very worrying for us. If they've got any monster that has above 600 attack, they can just win here. They're going to go for Tribe, pitch a Demock, so luckily that's a brick. And they're going to bring out a Yata and attack in for 18. So we're still alive here, just barely. And luckily, we should be able to win here. And it looks like, they don't have any other back row. We're going to fire Tribe, and that will be the end of the game. So I will mention, though, that, Kesha should have won this one. They were just trying to be a bit cheeky and sort of secure the moral victory here by, bringing out Yata and locking us. If they had summoned out Shining Angel, they would have won. And they acknowledged this basically after the match as well. But, it was still a very fun game here. And a funny turn of events nonetheless. But yeah, we're just going to take control of their tribe, attack in with tribe, and that will be the end of the game. So very, very good game 2 there. And again, as I mentioned, these games were so fun. We wanted to play yet another. So we actually played one more match after this. So let's dive into that and see how that one goes. Okay, we're going to go into the final game that I have featured for this video. These games have been really fun. I hope that they've shown off the Earth Aggro deck pretty well. If you enjoy this sort of content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I release gameplay videos like this fairly frequently. And I got plenty more chaos coming where this one, is... I don't know where that metaphor was going. But anyways, we're going to bring out a Goblin Attack Force here. Set an MST pass back to our opponent. We've got some very powerful cards in hand. And plenty of ways to keep getting powerful monsters on the field. Opponent's going to go for change of heart, fire MSC on our MSC, tribute off for Air Knight Parshath, and get a draw here. That is very worrying for us. Air Knight Parshath, when it's set up on field, can be very annoying to deal with. Our opponent's going to set one pass back to us. We do draw Berserk Gorilla, so we are able to bring that out, and that's fine by them. We're going to change of heart their Parshath, attack in for 3,900 here, hopefully get a draw. They're going to go for Mirror Force, though, so that will clear the Parshath. And then main 2, we're actually going to do something a little bit cheeky. We're going to go for Reborn on the Parshath. This plays around in case they set, like, Call of the Haunted next turn. And this is very annoying for them to deal with. It also deprives them of a light engrave. I mean, they don't have a dark engrave right now, but there are plenty of ways to get a dark engrave. So I feel fine just, doing this. We'll set the premature burial. Let's bluff, pass back to our opponent, and see what they do. They're going to set one fire creature swap, and that is very rough for us because they will get a draw here after hitting over that Lily. Then they're just going to pass back to us. We draw Forceful Sentry, so we can potentially see what they're working with. We are indeed going to do that. And we see that they're on a Raigeki, Premature Burial, and DD Warrior Lady here. This is a bit awkward for us. I do just send back the Premature Burial because I don't want them to revive Air Knight Parshath here. As DD Warrior Lady plus Parshath will be more than enough to get in for a draw, no matter what we bring out. I mean, we could potentially summon out Tribe and Premature Burial back our Goblin Attack Force, but if we do that, then they can just, Premature Burial back the Parshath, hit over the Tribe. So it doesn't really matter here. We just want to get rid of the pre-mat so that way they won't get another draw there. So we will now fire a pre-mat of our own, bringing out a Goblin Attack Force here. Or no, we're bringing out Berserk Gorilla. Yeah, Berserk Gorilla makes more sense because then this forces them to use up the DD Warrior Lady removal on it. And so we'll deal 100 to them, pass back to them. They're going to set one, set another, pass back to us. And we draw MSC, so we're just going to fire MST on their set. I figure it's not an MST, or else they would have probably fired it and gotten in for some damage here. It looks like it's just a Call of the Haunted, so I'm very glad I hit that. We're going to bring out a Tribe Infecting Virus to get in for even more damage. We attack over what we presume is a DD Warrior Lady, and that will indeed be the case. Now we're going to attack in with Tribe for 16. We could potentially save the Tribe for later to act as removal. I think this is ultimately fine. It does trade for Raigeki if they choose to fire it, and it looks like they're just going to pass back to us. We draw Call of the Haunted, which is really good. Can get us a powerful monster back to just keep hitting in here for damage. They're going to go for Painful Choice, though, which is very worrying. It looks like they're going to send a bunch of Hand Rips, Serpent, and a Demock here. This is very rough for us. If they've got any form of revival, then Demock is going to be really annoying for us. So we might just want to give them that. Serpent also returns to hands. We could just give them the Serpent. But, yeah, I think it is probably better just to give them the DMOC here. And we are just going to do that just to play around the potential reborn, as that would be really bad for us. They're going to pass back to us. We do draw reinforce the army here, so we are able to get a bit aggressive, bring out a goblin attack force, and we're going to send that out, attack in. We could potentially revive another monster from our graveyard to get in for even more damage, but I figure we can just set up that clock next turn and be ultimately fine. But, you know, they've already used up Raigeki. They could have Dark Hole, but I figure it's probably fine to go for a call here. I think I maybe should have just gone for call, get even more aggressive. But I also kind of want to bait them into summoning out Serpent, hitting over Goblin Attack Force, and then us reviving a monster and hitting over Serpent. But it looks like they're just going to go for Kaiku here instead, attack over the Goblin Attack Force, and then set one pass back to us. We draw another Goblin Attack Force, so we'll be able to summon that out, attack over their Kaiku, and that is fine by them. They'll take 500, and we're just going to pass back to them. Again, we're holding the Call of the Haunted for later. I think I could have potentially just kept getting aggressive here, and if we had done that, maybe we would have potentially won. But they're going to bring out the Serpent, hit over the Goblin Attack Force, and this is just what I was waiting for. Oh, and Scientist makes it even better. We're going to bring out Scientist. We're going to pay 1,000 and bring out a Ryu Sentry here. This will shut up their traps, and now we can attack into the Serpent there, deal 1,700. And get in for 300, and then we can call back a monster from grave to get in for the last bit of damage here. So that will indeed be the end of the game. I'm not sure holding the call was correct, but it did, you know, allow us to push for that last bit of damage in a very insulated way, given Sentry was on field. So, and that does show how powerful Scientists can be. But that was, you know, a pretty great top deck there. We're gonna go into game 2 again, signing out the duo and the premature burial for double knock. I think I might also side out Comfy for Dark Hole because, you know, we are going second here, so Comfy's a bit less good. We do indeed draw Dark Hole in the opener. I really do like Dark Hole in this deck. Our opponent's going to set one pass back to us. We draw Graceful Charity, but we're not going to fire it yet. We're just going to attack in to their set with DD Warrior Lady. That's fine. We're just going to set the Imperial Order and the Dark Hole pass back to them. I feel like we've got a pretty good board, and we want to save the Charity for when we might not, you know, have a good enough board, and we want to see what we actually want to do with our discards. So our opponent's going to go for Painful Choice here. We've got the IO, but they've got the MST. It's going to be really rough for us. They're going to send Sinister Serpent, Kaiku, DMOC, White Magical Hat, and Shining Angel, setting up their graveyard for chaos stuff. We want to give them one of the lights or darks, so that way they don't have, you know, a full 2 chaos monsters at their disposal. So we're actually going to, okay, they're not going to send Shining Angel, they're going to send Air Knight Power Shaft instead. That's probably the better choice there. But either way, we want to give them one of the lights or darks, and we are just going to give them DMOC in case they've got Reborn. Now, that was potentially playing a bit too safe because we got a Reborn of our own to revive their DMOC, so it might have been better just to have it engraved there for that reason. But I think ultimately this is fine. They've got MST for our Dark Hole, which is quite unfortunate, but Dark Hole would not have been the best against Sangan there anyways. And they're just going to set one pass back to us. We draw a Raigeki here, which is pretty decent. We're going to go for Graceful Charity here, drawing 3. And we got a bit of a choice to make here. We do want to be able to get aggressive with the Goblin Attack Force. And we do like the Sangan as well. But like Reborn, Raigeki, and Change of Heart are all so good. And also having a reactive trap in the form of Sacrifice Armor is also pretty good. So it's a bit awkward here. We're going to pitch the Goblin Attack Force and the Saku in the end. Because Goblin, you know, switches to defense so it can be cleared by the Serpent that they're adding back to hand. So I think it's ultimately fine. We're going to go for Reborn, targeting Kaiku. They've unfortunately got this Call of the Haunted to bring back the Kaiku. Second time in this video that we've fallen for that. But this does make me very happy that we, you know, gave them the DMOC instead of the like Serpent or something. Because, you know, they could have just revived DMOC and that would be really bad for us. We're going to bring out Sangan, though. We're going to Change of Heart their Kaiku, attack over the Sangan there. They will get a search here, but we are able to banish both lights from their grave to cut them off of Chaos Monsters. They're going to search out another light, but that light will probably be used to get rid of our Sangan there. I think this is ultimately fine. We don't really have many monsters we care to keep in grave. I mean, Goblin Attack Force will be annoying to lose, but we can save the Raigeki for later. Our opponent is going to bring out DD Warrior Lady here, indeed attack over the Sangan, banish both, and now they're going to attack in directly with the Kaiku, banish the Goblin Attack Force from our grave. Now they're going to pass back to us. We draw Breaker, which is really, really good here. We can just attack over the Kaiku with the Breaker. If we wanted more damage, we could have also used the counter on Breaker to pop the Call of the Haunted. But this will be fine enough. And now we've saved the counter for if they bring out another spell or trap card in the back row. So our opponent's going to set one pass back to us. It's likely the Serpent, and so we don't need to really go for Raigeki here. We're just going to hit over it. It is indeed the Serpent. We're just going to set this MST, pass back to them. If they've got snapped, we can MST it. If they got Change of Heart, that's annoying for us, but, they've used up Change of Heart on a Breaker kind of ineffectually. They're going to go for a Breaker of their own. They are indeed going to pop our back row, and they're going to Raigeki our Breaker. Attack indirectly for 1600. And we are dropping pretty low, so that is something to consider. We draw Mirror Force, though, so that's pretty good. We're going to set that pass back to them. And they're just going to attack in for another 16. We are indeed going to fire this Mirror Force here, clear the Breaker. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw a Berserk Gorilla. Ook, ook, ak, ak. We're going to bring that out. Attack in over their set. It's just the Serpent, so, I feel fine doing that. They're going to add back that Serpent, though. Serpent putting in the work this game. They're going to go for Forceful, send back our Raigeki, unfortunately. They're going to Change of Heart our monster, and they do indeed have an Injection fairly, so that will be the end of the game. So maybe we should have actually saved the Mirror Force for later. For the big aggressive push that would actually kill us. But I didn't want to drop down too low. But yeah, maybe I just misplayed that a bit in the end there. Not sure it would have made much of a difference, but it still is good to consider, especially in sort of going over these replays and looking to sort of improve my game. But we're going to be going into game 3 here. This is the final game of the final match in this video, so it'll be very, very exciting to see what happens here. We are going first. We draw Harpies, which is pretty good. We're going to use Reinforce the Army, grab back to DD Worley. I do believe that I sided in the Comfy again. I don't think I sided in over the Dark Hole. I might have sided out a Fiber Jar, because Fiber Jar is a bit worse going first here. But we're going to set the DD Worley, set Sakuretsu Armor, pass back to our opponent. They're going to go for Graceful Charity here, draw 3, pitch a TT and a Mirage. Now they're going to go for Change of Heart on our set, tribute it off for an Air Knight Parshath here, attack in with Air Knight. We've got the Sakuretsu Armor to clear that. They've got the Delinquent Duo to rip 2 cards out of our hand, unfortunately. And they're going to hit the Tribe, which is kind of rough, and we're just going to pitch the Scientist. The Scientist isn't really the best on an empty board state. Opponent's going to set 2, pass back to us. We've got the Harpies to deal with that. So we're going to go for that. They do indeed have the IO there. We're going to bring out this Breaker. They've got TT for the Breaker, though, so that will pop that. We're just going to set this Snatch Steal, pass back to our opponent. They're going to pay 700 to keep the IO up. They're going to set 2, pass back to us. We draw a spell, which can't be used under IO. We're going to pass back to them. They're going to pay another 700 to keep the IO up. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw a Ring, which is really good. That can be used under IO. We're going to set that, pass back to them. We're going to pay another 700. Bring in a Witch. Unfortunately, we don't want to ring that Witch. That would be pretty bad for us. So we're just going to take that, pass back to them. Or they'll pass back to us. We draw a Reinforce the Army. Another card that cannot be used under IO. We're going to set that, pass back to them. They're going to go for a Pot of Greed, letting the IO drop, drawing 2. And it's going to be pretty good for them, likely. They're going to tribute off both those monsters for the DMOC. That is really, really rough for us. They're going to go for Graceful here. We'll let them get that back. And they're going to add a Sangan off their Witch there. They're going to go for Graceful here, draw 3, pitch a White Magical Hat and a Yata, and now they're just going to attack in for 2800, not playing into TT. We're just doing some brief math, as we potentially do have lethal next turn. What we can do is we can Snatch Steal their DMOC, and then attack in for 28, ring the DMOC, and be ultimately the victors of the game, because, that'll be 5,600 damage total. We'll still have 1,300 left. So that will be the end of the game if we do that. So I do just take it. I could have potentially ringed it now, but I think it's better to do it this way. Opponent's going to set 1, set another, pass back to us, and that's kind of worrying. We do draw a Change of Heart. Now, we have a couple different options here. We could Reborn the Magical Scientist, bring out a Ryu Senshi from our extra deck, and just insulate against Mirror Force. But Mirror Force is a 1 of, and Torrential is a 3 of. They have gone through 2 of them, so maybe, I should have just brought out the Scientist to play around Mirror Force instead. But it's really a decision of, do I play around Scientist, or do I play around, or no, not Scientist. Do I play around Mirror Force, or do I play around Torrential? And ultimately, I decide to play around Mirror Force here. I think that playing around Mirror Force also is the best, because I then save the Reborn for later. And so, I can bring out a powerful monster later, and I'm not just completely out on resources. But I just go for the change, take over the DMOC, and now I just ring it. If they want a Book of Moon, that's ultimately fine. But yeah, this should be the end of the game, and it looks like it is indeed the end of the game. It looks like they actually did have a Mirror Force set, but they chose not to go for it because this wasn't lethal on board. We had to have Ring to make it lethal, and we did indeed have that. So, maybe they should have fired Mirror there. But again, I think that this was the better thing to sort of play into, because then we have Reborn to do follow-up plays later. They also did not have a TT, so maybe going for the Scientist would have been the winning play here, but I do think this was the better play here. We also had this Rhoda to search out another monster from deck, so we had plenty of options, if they did have the Mirror Force there. But that was a very, very fun set of games total. And I really do think that it shows the power of this sort of Earth aggro deck. I mean, I guess no Earth monsters really showed up in this final game of the match here. But just getting aggressive and having a more aggressive deck in general can be very, very nice. And I do think that, a deck like this maybe isn't the best deck in the format, but it is a very good deck and can do very well. And I do think that, Chaos format as a whole is viewed as tier 0 often by many people, but decks like this do show that other decks can win games in it. And I encourage you to try it out if you are interested in this sort of thing. So I hope that this video helped, sort of show off a deck that maybe wasn't on your radar for this format, and hopefully you'll try it out. Now, before ending the video, as I mentioned before, if you like this sort of content, please do subscribe. It really helps the channel a lot. Also, I got to give a shout out to my patrons who directly support me. If you want to directly support me as well, link to my Patreon in the description below. But big shout outs to Brendonker, Rincewind, and GMYFS. It really, really means a lot to me that you support me this way. And also, if you sign up for the Patreon, there are some exclusive perks as well, like exclusive videos and being able to decide future content. So I hope that you enjoyed this video as always. Let me know what you think of this deck and the format down below in the comments. But until next time, I've been Ben from Wide From Zero, and I'm signing off.